For these problems, we're going to find the exact value of the expression given. So exact value indicates that we're going to be able to evaluate that with some special angle from the unit circle. So given the sum or difference identity, so let's start with number 36. I'm looking for two angles that when I add them together, two standard angles, when I add or subtract them, I get negative 75. It kind of hurts my brain a little to think of that negative and getting standard angles to come up to that negative. So I'm actually going to start by using the symmetry identity and change that to negative sine of 75 degrees. My brain works a little better with that, and then I know those kind of jump out to me as I can use a 45 degree and a 30 degree. Just keep that negative out in front. So whatever answer I get, I make sure I put a negative in front of it. So sine of 75 degrees is equal to 45 degrees plus 30 degrees. And that identity says, let's see, sine of 45 degrees times cosine of 30 degrees. Same sign, different trig function. Cosine sandwiched in the middle. And the signs, the beginning and the end. Okay, that gives me a negative. Sine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. Cosine of 30 is, that's this guy right there, so that's radical 3 over 2. And cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. And sine of 30 is 1/2. Don't forget to carry that negative around. And I get a radical 6 over 4 plus radical 2 over 4, which gives me, I'm going to distribute that negative, and I get radical 6 minus radical 2 over 4 for my final answer. For number 36. I'm just going to shrink up that answer so I can also do 38 on the same page. So there's number 36. I'll do number 38 in a purple marker. So 38 is a little different because it's in radians. So I like to think of this circle divided into, the pi divided into 12ths. So we got 2 12ths, 3 12ths, 4 12ths. 5 12ths is not a standard angle. Then 6 12ths, then 8 12ths, 9 12ths, 10 12ths, and 12 12ths. And it keeps going, 13 12ths, etc. So I need to, and so thinking about this already in 12ths, so I just need to think of two numbers that add up or have a difference of 11. Looking at the coefficient out in front here. The 2, the 3, the 4, the 6, the 8, 9, 10, 12. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but I'm thinking about doing sine, I'm thinking 9 and 2 make 11. So I'm going to use those two angles. So 9 pi over 12 plus 2 pi over 12 gives me 11 pi over 12. So that will work for that. And putting that in standard angles, 9 pi over 12 is 3 pi over 4. 2 pi over 12 is pi over 6. And then putting that into the identity, we get sine of 3 pi over 4, and then a cosine of pi over 6. Keep the same sign, flip the function. Okay, and then using my unit circle, I can see that sine of 3 pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Cosine of pi over 6 is radical 3 over 2. Cosine of 3 pi over 4 is a negative radical 2 over 2. And sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. And simplifying that, I get radical 6. Radical 2 times radical 3 gives me radical 6. 2 times 2 gives me a 4. And I'll say plus the negative is we'll call that a minus. Radical 2 over 4, which gives me a final answer of radical 6 minus radical 2, all over 4.